pajamas on?
You know what? I have, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
glad it's not like a video chat because that would
yeah.
have been weird.
I've got my Super Ted ones on,
Have you?
so yeah.
Brilliant. So, real professional outfit then, yeah? We're just sat in
Yeah,
our
that's it.
pajamas having a chat.
Yeah, damn
Yeah,
right. On a, what was
cool.
it, Thursday night? I don't know what the bloody day is because I'm sort of
Yeah,
working weekends and that at the minute. It just merges into one. And
yeah.
I'm off the booze as well, so I wake up at the same sort of time every day, regardless.
Yeah,
It's like,
I'm
what
trying
day
to
is
do
it?
the same thing with the booze at the moment. Right,
Yeah,
bit of a
it's
break from that.
yeah, it makes a difference. Not only
Yeah,
that, it's just drinking in the winter is a bit, isn't it? It's
yeah, it's
like,
stale,
right, it's
isn't it?
dark now. Might as well
Yeah,
get on the beer. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, not the one. Yeah, I think it's nearly 6 weeks for me. It'll be
Well, that's mint.
6 weeks on Sunday.
I did it doesn't sound like a lot now. You've said 6 weeks. I wish you'd have said less than that, and it would have looked better for me. But I did like the most of January, so I had a drink on the second, I think, or the third, and then
Yeah,
I completed the rest of January without having a drink, and then made up for that over the last couple of weeks by drinking quite
yeah,
a lot. So this is the start of me not drinking again for a while.
yeah. I just can't handle the hangovers, mate. It just makes me fucking lazy.
Why are they a week long now? Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
mad, isn't it?
yeah,
Not
yeah.
productive at
I'll be
all.
I'll be I'll be 41 on Monday, so it's everything takes longer to recover.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is the first and last time I'm speaking to a 41-year-old who's sat in his Ted pajamas, or,
Yeah, you never
over.
know.
Yeah,
If
with
you're
his.
boring enough, we might have you back.
Yeah, well, I'll give it a good go. I've got a
Yeah,
nice
right.
monotone voice.
Yeah, we complement each other well.
Yeah.
Does if there are two people with monotone voices, is that a duo tone or I don't know?
Yeah.
But it'd be bitone. I don't know. It sounds a bit funky. That maybe biotone. I don't know.
Yeah, like it.
Right, ready to make a start, mate?
Yeah. Yeah, bang on, mate.
Cool. Right. Welcome to the most boring carp fishing podcast on the interwebs. I think we've got a new headline after one of the last reviews that I saw, which was rather amusing. So Jason Hadwin's today's guest. Jason, welcome aboard, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Dom. This is going to be
That's right.
a real boring one now you've got me on, that's a fact.
Yeah, well, we're I think we put out a little disclaimer and say if anyone's listening to this now, if you're operating any heavy machinery or anything like that, maybe either turn the podcast off or pull over because you
Yeah.
might nod off. That's a
Yeah,
fair
for sure.
disclaimer,
That's
isn't it?
fair. Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, you've hit nail on the head there.
Right, so let's have a bit about you first, Jace. If you give us a bit of an intro, mate, sort of where you fish, what you're up to, and then have a
Yeah.
little sort of. We'll try and keep the COVID chat to a minimum, and then
Yeah,
we'll
please.
go on to a few maybe a few decent catch stories. So yeah, give us a little bit about you, mate.
Yeah, so I'm based up in Doncaster, which is in Yorkshire. So, my fishing journey, I've spent the large part of it up here. Um, for anybody who lives up in this area, there is waters with big carp in there, but for me, it's always been about chasing the real nice lookers, and that's all we've really had on my doorstep. So a lot of dark, scaly, littler ones, but in recent times, I started to make my way down to Oxfordshire and Cambridge and Northampton and stuff like that. And my angling's changed a little bit over the last few years, but predominantly for large parts of it, it was spent in Doncaster or in and around this area. You know,
Right.
never really targeting any big fish, Dom. Like just going out and just enjoying my angling and catching whatever I could catch. But knowing that I'm always fishing for a real nice looker or something along those lines. I think we're all hung up a little bit nowadays on catching the biggest carp we possibly can, aren't we? Can't we? But
Yeah.
like for me, that's not always been the case.
And the water's busy up that way, mate.
Do you know what? When I started, there's a little clay pit not too far away from me, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth. In terms of carp fishing itself. Prior to that, obviously, my dad had me out in the canals, like most of us. We whip and what have you. But yeah, that for years and years, like there were some old boys on there who were probably two or three people fishing it, carp fishing properly when I started. And I used to just go up there and try and squeeze bits of info out of them. You know what it's like when you're a kid and you just want to catch a big
That's it.
carp. And
Yeah.
I lost many a school holiday up there, and it were always real quiet. So for large parts, Tom, it were a little bit tranquil. And yeah, I'd love to go back there now just for a week maybe and see what it's like. You know what I mean? Just go back in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, reminisce. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But now, yeah, I think like everywhere's getting much busier now, isn't it, Dom? Like
Hmm.
sports just it's just getting mad, isn't it? Like so many new people coming into it, and I think that's good for
Yeah.
for a lot of things, but maybe not so much the peace and quiet. Like
Yeah, I think we do. We are going to need more waters, aren't we? It's
yeah,
heading that way. I
yeah,
suppose with obviously with the days only at the minute, if you're normally travelling sort of because I what Doncaster to Oxfordshire, what's that? 3 or 4 hours or something?
between 3 and 4. Yeah,
Yeah, call it 3.5, shall we?
yeah, yeah. Let's split it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd imagine. So are you literally not doing any angling at all at the minute?
So my as my angling because of my job. I recently did a film with Carp and it were about
Hmm.
it were called Annual Leave, and that was because a lot of my angling is it's almost like holiday fishing because I get 7 full weeks holiday a year, um, and I can only book them in 7 days. I can't book one here, one there. That's just how our holidays
Oh,
work.
right. Okay.
Like I have 7 big trips a year. That's if my missus don't nick one or two of them weeks for holiday stuff and other things.
Yeah.
So every time I'm going on a decent, going out fishing, it tends to be on one of these prolonged trips.
Right.
It's almost like getting ready for an holiday, once every couple of months if I'm lucky. In terms of day fishing and stuff, when I ain't got my kids and stuff like that, I will try and nip out, or I'll even squeeze a day session in with my lad if I can. He loves it. So,
Nice. Yeah. How
um,
old's your lad?
so I've got two. I've got one who's 10,
Yeah.
and 2 seconds, I think. I don't know if this is plugged in. Yeah, I've got one who's 10 and one who's just coming up 3. So
Right.
my 10-year-old loves it. This year for Christmas, we got him his own rod and
Oh,
carp
nice.
proper, and he's itching to get out and do a bit with that. We haven't had the weather for it yet, so. And
Yeah.
then my 3-year-old, he's fish mad as well, but yeah, he's not quite mastered the art of patience yet.
No.
But we'll
No,
get
yeah,
there,
it
mate.
needs to be a Fisher Chuck, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
For that,
does, and
I
I think
think.
that's important. That's why, like, with my eldest boy, I'm holding off taking him out with his carp stuff because I want it to be when we know we
Mm.
get out and he's going to catch a few, and then that's going to be him, like it was with the roach fishing, perch fishing that we did with him as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I remember that sort of catching a few fish. Then it was like a slightly bigger roach, or
yeah, and then you're thinking,
then you caught a
oh,
tench or something. It's like,
yeah,
wow, yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah,
scrap that
definitely,
it gives you. And then it's like someone starts talking about a carp, and then obviously you
yeah.
hook one, and it's bang.
But yeah, in terms of my fishing, it's been. I think my last trip was early December. That were
Hmm.
down to St Ives. I got a winter ticket on there.
All right.
And I was fortunate enough to catch my first one on my first trip in November. My second
Wow.
trip came round in December, and uh, it was just horrendous weather. And I ended up moving off there to do a social with, Lance. You'll know Lance. You've had
Oh
Lance on,
yeah.
haven't you? With Lance Bart, and I
Yeah.
went and
Yeah.
did a night with him, just because it was poor. And then that was my last trip. Um,
Okay.
so I've been lazing about and eating a lot. Just yeah, it's just a bit dreadful, isn't it, with this old
Yeah, it's
lockdown and
hard. It's really hard, this lockdown.
yeah.
That first trip to St Ives in November, how did you go about planning something like that, where it's obviously still quite a trek away? Are you able to get down and do any recce's, or is it all sort of research online, or sort of speaking to people that fished it?
So what happened? I'll take it back to like I think it was September, October time. Basically, I was fishing a syndicate in the area. A friend of mine got me on, um, and I started to get into the swing of things. Started to catch a few, and it can be a moody little lake, the one that I was on.
Mm.
And I had a couple of fish in mind, but one in particular that I really wanted to catch, and it were mad really how it went because Lance again. I'll mention Lance. He called me or he messaged me on Instagram saying, "Look, mate, can I give you a call?" He gave me a call, and he just said, Carp are interested in coming down. Macaulay from Carp want to come down and film you. So I was like, okay, this is October, and this is my first year on there, and I planned on
Mm.
being there probably for. We all want to hope for best, don't we? But
Yeah.
couple 3 years maybe, catch the ones I want, and then get away.
Right.
And he was like, he wants to come down. I thought, well, that's pretty, that's pretty good because I've started to hit a little bit of a thing here, and I've rolled into a little bit of form, catching a few,
Hmm.
and it. So a week, the trip before he was planning to come, I think they had 5 bites, and I thought, oh no, that's my red letter one out at window. Like that could have been, you know what I mean? I thought that's the one when I needed him.
Yeah. A week
So just
later.
yeah,
Yeah.
which were brilliant, were on there. I think anybody who catches, more than one will agree that little lake, you've done well. And anyway, he come down to see me, did Macaulay, and he come to stay for a couple of nights. And fortunately, I'd got there a night before him, found some carp, prepped a zone, and it was like 30 degrees or something. It was really warm. So I thought, I'm just going to bait, chill, not even put rods out, and give myself 24 hours. Because, like I said earlier, it being like with annual leave and it being like a holiday trip, I can
Yeah.
on my trip afford to do that. So it
Yeah.
has its ups and downs. The ups being that kind of thing, and the downs being the fact that I may go in summer and then my next trip is well into autumn, so everything changes a little bit, and it's anyway. So Mac had come down. I'd fluked one, I think, the first night of filming because I had 3 rods fishing on the spot, and this fish had managed to pick up someone's line who'd cracked off before me going
Ugh.
into that area, and it had wiped all 3 of my rods out. So still to this
Oh,
day,
no.
I'm not sure what happened, but one at rods went. What I'm I'm pretty clear that we're in a bit of a mess. So I've given Macaulay the other rod and asked him to lift that up, and he's telling me that rod's ripping, and mine's going left, and he's just kind of going right, and we're a bit like we don't really know what's going on. It's pitch black. We've been woke up like, and at this point, like the weather had turned completely. It was raining. Wind was just it was smashing into us.
Right.
And I remember like I think the one I was playing like cut off, and I was like, oh no, first film, first
Yeah.
fish, cut off in a mess. I thought this is just not the one. Anyway, Max says there's still a fish on mine on this other rod that you've. So I've took rod off him, played this fish in. So looking back, me and Mac like sat down afterwards and thought maybe he had a double take there, which is just insane. And there was just this big matted up mess. Anyway, Max stayed, and like that day after, I'd got a bit cocky then because I'd caught one and had a load of luck, and I'd said to him like, "We'll catch the one that I want to catch tonight." And it's a fish called Chain Girl, which is a bit of a mad name really, but hey, I went
Train girl.
Chain
Oh.
Girl. So yeah, so I said like, we'll catch that one tonight. And on film, he'd asked me, what my targets were, and I'd mentioned it and stuff. And he were like, "Yeah, of course you will, mate," kind of thing. And a couple of other members walked into the swim and was like, "Oh, she's not been out for a year or two or whatever." And they were like, "Yeah, she likes it, and I'll tell you where she'll get caught from. The swim is called the Willow." And I was like, "That'll be tonight." And I was in the swim called Willow, and they were like, "Oh yeah, of course you will, mate. Anyway, see you later," kind of thing. And walked. I was probably thinking I was just an idiot or whatever. But anyway, that night, I got this mental take, like it was just stripping. When your spool's making that noise where it's ripping braid off your spool faster than your
Yeah.
spool kind of should be moving.
Yeah.
And anyway, I've got into this fish, and at this point, Dom, the wind and the rain were just savage. Like it was mad. I was stood out. I had
Mm.
no shoes on, in water, and and this fish was just ripping. And as soon as I picked the rod up, I just felt like I knew it was that. I don't know why there were other big fish in there, but it was just like I knew. Anyway, it's kited right, and I've managed to like draw it towards me. And when a fish goes right over your other rods, and you almost lean over your other rods to net it.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
done that. Got no head torch on because it's rare that I use an head torch or get the chance to put an head torch on when I'm playing a fish. It's something that I've never really done. I just try and work out where it is
Yeah.
and manage
Yeah.
to scramble them in some way. And I've like kind of gone to lift it over my other rods back to where I'm stood, if you get what I mean, thinking it was going to be another little common like the first one I'd kind of fluked.
Yeah.
I've gone to lift it and thought, oh, I must be stuck, I must be stuck on a reed or something. It's not budging anyway. I've shone torch into there, and I knew straight away which one it was. And I was like, oh my god, how has this happened? So ran up to Mac, and he set up on at the back, and I've been screaming him all the way through, saying, like, "Come on, get up! Like I've got one on, and he's ripping. It'd have been some sick footage." I ran
Yeah.
up to the back, and I've just shook him. He looked like he was in a state of panic when he opened his eyes because he's just got this big lad just on top of him shaking. And afterwards, he told me he thought he was being robbed. I think he might have been playing dead at one point, to be fair. Um, anyway, he comes down, bear in mind, I've just like ripped him from his slumber. And I said, "Mac, I've got it." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, I've got the one. I said, the one we were talking about yesterday. And he was like, shut. Anyway, he's like shined his head torch in net and realised like this is the fish. And he's walking around with his hands on his head, like saying, "How has this happened?" Like he was, I think he was still half asleep, still unsure, like how
It
I've
was in his
managed to.
dream.
Yeah, yeah. Like, am I actually being robbed? Uh, and yeah, mate. And so going back to that, so we got that done, and that kind of scratched off what I wanted to do on that lake, and that's leading me onto the St. Ives part that we just spoke about a second ago, and
Mm.
I kind of just inquired about a winter ticket, knowing that I could hopefully fall straight from that into this winter ticket that started in November and try and get a bit of a run on St. Ives. And like you said, Dom, I've watched years and years of footage from St. Ives and read a lot about it. And before getting that ticket, I never actually walked any of the lakes.
Right.
So I got the ticket, got the winter ticket, and I think I had 7 days off or something. Like again, a bit of annual leave. And I just spent the day, like the first day after arriving on my first trip. It were like, what lake do you start on St. Ives? Because they're all amazing. They've all got lovely carp in. And I was just a bit like, right, this will be fine. I'll go down first day, I'll have a wander and just decide where I'm going to start fishing. That's not like the best way to approach St. Ives at all, because you just get sidetracked everywhere you go. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Spoiled for choice, sort of
yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah, we're over at Meadows,
Yeah.
like talking to my mate. Again, my mate Sam Stott, don't you? And like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he's a good friend of mine, and I was messaging him, and I was like, "Oh, bloody hell, Meadows looks class." And I showed him, and he was like, "Oh, mate, that looks brilliant." And then I was like, "Oh, Long Reach looks brilliant as well, though." And then, later on, I sent him a little video of these carp poking heads out, and they were like, "Oh, you're on him then?" And I was like, "Yeah, but on Lagoon this time." So he's like, "So I've just been about." Anyway, I settled into Lagoon, Dom, and fortunately on that trip I managed to catch one and a good one as well. But yeah, like you said, the prep for me and the build up for a trip, because it is like they
Mm.
are long trip. It is like almost getting ready to go on a little trip abroad kind of thing, because I'm loading up for a week and sometimes longer if I can tie it in with my shifts and stuff. But yeah, it definitely is a unique way of fishing, and I do appreciate the longer sessions that I get. But sometimes I've said it before, like I think I'd prefer regularity.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you mean, because you can build on it's like
yeah,
weekly. You sort of know where the fish are going to be.
yeah,
I
mate, yeah,
suppose
yeah.
you've
That's
got to
that.
drop on and learn.
Yeah,
Be instant, haven't you? Although you've got 7 days, the
yeah,
first few, like you say, are
and
almost just wrecking and sussing out, aren't they?
yeah, and sometimes what I found is, I'm not scared of a bit of hard work and a bit of graft and walking and like stay. I've turned up like many others do, turn up in the night and spend the whole night looking and stuff like that. I'm not afraid to do that. But what I have found is, for a couple of days, I have literally just wrecked and looked and searched and searched and searched and looked a little bit more.
Hmm.
And and you can almost like burn yourself out before you've even
Yeah,
put a rod in water.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and because in previous trips, when getting used to this style of angling, I've turned up, set up where I think they'll be, absolutely not the right plan, and then had to start again, and then
Hmm.
start look. I'm almost like conscious now of making sure I find something before even
Yeah.
thinking about plotting up.
It's
Um,
so true though. What they said, it's just like sort of a couple of minutes in the right place,
yeah, it's
and
massive,
it's
isn't it?
having that discipline to not rush into the first swimmer
Yeah,
where you think they are,
yeah,
spending the time searching.
yeah, A-
It's yeah,
and
because
that
like you say,
is,
you can waste a couple of days almost, can't you, if you've done that and they're not there.
yeah, you can, mate. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I get in. It's weird because since I fish this way, it sounds crazy, but I get into this mindset, and it's obviously because of the way it's been happening, the way I've been fishing. So because I go on these big trips, and it's a regular thing. Sometimes I'll get 2 days pop up out of nowhere, And
Right.
and I know for a fact I can go and catch them if I want to in a couple of days, but it almost seems like it's not enough. And
Mm.
it's great. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm so used to
You're
a
so
week,
used to it. Yeah.
yeah. So and then I just see it as a bit of a, and then afterwards I think, why hadn't I like acted on? And yeah, it is. It's tricky, and although sometimes it has its benefits when you get it right,
Yeah.
you've got the time to really, you know, to make it a fruitful one. And but then in the same sense, if you get it wrong, and
Yeah.
you're thinking my next one, sometimes it's a month away, but a lot of times it can be 6 to 8 weeks away before I get another one in, because obviously I've got these 7 weeks. I try to book them around the better times, the moon,
Yeah.
the better months. I try not to go too, so I tend to miss out June, July quite a
Mhm.
lot. Just think a lot
I
of cat.
suppose in this country as well, the weather's so bloody hit and miss, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not like it used to be. I mean,
yeah,
it's a conversation we always have and you always hear where autumns, we just don't have that big feed up, do we? That
no,
big hit just
no.
doesn't seem to happen. So
And
it's
I think,
almost a gamble, isn't it?
yeah, I think this big feed up that we were so used to, I feel like it's got later now.
Right.
Um, a lot of trips I've had, we used to be looking into maybe September, October, maybe. I think that for me, it's always been November, like early to mid-November now. I think that's. I can remember years ago that a lot of my better trips were, September, October. Maybe it's just moving into November, but I've noticed people's catch reports, and certainly some of mine, have got better as we move further through and into
Hmm.
November and further towards
Yeah,
winter. And I don't know if that's
definitely.
the climate change, as well as the angling pressure or what, Don. But
Yeah.
I spoke to a
Yeah.
few
Well, I
friends. And
think, yeah, I don't think we might get like one or two frosts. We don't seem to get anything really bad, do we,
no,
until much later on. So is it that? I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or just, yeah, I don't know, daylight hours or something. I don't know. It just seems
Yeah.
a lot's changing, isn't it? But for sure, like if I get a good trip in, and I've on my 7 days, I've managed to bag, I don't know, a handful, two, three, whatever I'm lucky enough to catch. I'm itching to get back then, and it's very difficult to
Yeah.
get something going, because
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks later, you can guarantee that that's not going to be the same when you return. So yeah, you can make the most of it there and then, but you never quite get something ticking along, and that, yeah, I suppose it has its ups and downs, Dom, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's how did that go then in the end? Your first session on tonight.
Oh, so yeah, so like I said to you, I reckon. Sorry, I digressed, didn't I go
That's fine,
down
mate.
all
Don't
these
need to
little rabbit
apologise.
warrens and
Don't forget, this is
yeah.
the most boring podcast out
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Good.
be as boring as you want, mate.
Right, brilliant. You've got the right man for the job. Um, yeah. So the St. Ives trip. So I remember, like you said, I spent a lot of time looking, and I settled on Lagoon, and I knew that Lagoon had a bit of winter form, and I don't think any of the lakes down there are necessarily easy lakes to catch carp. Um, but I knew Lagoon had a little bit of farming, in previous years, just looking from catch reports, and again, we all look at YouTube and read what we can read, don't we, and stuff. And I turned up, and after looking around the complex and stuff, I'd just on dark, I'd come into a big swim, and I think it was called a beach. And I looked out to my left, and I knew from like I'd found this lake map with depths and stuff on it, and it was an old one, so I know a lot had changed, but I knew it was like an area, a deep water that went into a bit of shallower water and quite weedy ground. And I were looking out that way because there were loads of ducks, just loads of coots, loads of tufties and stuff. And I was
Mhm.
staring at them, right in between them, right in amongst them. I see a dead subtle show, and I thought, oh, here we go. So I see another, then I see a couple more, and this is when I'm videoing Sam and sending it over and being like, oh, he thinks I'm on a completely different lake, because an hour before I was. And so I moved into a little area as close to the area they were showing as I could, and I flicked a few, choddies out, singles at them, because it's dark now. I ain't got a clue, what I'm fishing over. Or
Yeah.
what, so it's just one of them. It were a bit of an opportunist thing, and I thought if I can get a quick one here, we're rocking.
Mm.
Anyway, nothing happened, mate. It passed stale, and what I decided to do was come away from this group of fish because they seemed to be enjoying it, and it were almost like there was getting under the weed that was there. It weren't necessarily like I imagine when I was putting them choddies out, a lot of mine were probably fishing off at deck and quite high up in a lot of bits of weed and stuff.
Right.
And it looked to me from a lot of the fizzing and stuff, it looked like they were rooting underneath the weed, and then they'd show, and it and I had a little bit of a lead about, but without wanting to disturb them. So I thought, what I'm going to do rather than do a lot of leading about and move them on, because that's certainly what would have happened, I'm sure. I decided to come just off of it and find a spot where I weren't disturbing them, but hopefully pick one off as it went in and out of this weed, and maybe I could, And I thought, right, I'm gonna give them a bit of food to try and get them to take notice. So
Yeah.
I've left them to the devices. They're in and out of that weed. Nobody were aware that they were really there other than me. Um. Anyway, that I think I put a lot, mix out. Bait works, it stinks, doesn't it? If you put
Mm.
some of that out, they know it's there, don't they? So, few other little bits and bobs, maybe a few casters, a few maggots, bit of chopped worm, stuff like that. Same thing that I go in
Yeah.
with most years. And
Yeah.
that night, I think it passed with some liners, and then I were a bit like, I felt like something should have happened. Anyway, it hadn't. Got up the next morning, do what I normally do. I speak to my friends and just be like, don't really know what's going off here, mate. Like, I'll have that chat, and then again, see him showing into weed. So I thought, right, well, I'm gonna have to. As much as I think that I would have got a chance on that spot, I thought what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a lead up short and see if I can find a little hole in this weed or something. Anyway, I found a little hole in weed, tiny, dinner plate size. I thought that's just enough for a single up bait, and I'll
Yeah.
just put like it were in catapult range this, so I could just put maybe
Hmm.
20 chops around it. So I put one there, stack, kept two on bait. That night I see one lump out over my spot, bang above me. I thought, right, here we go, they're on me now. This was just after dark. I thought, it's took them a day or so to find it, come out of that weed. Um, Nothing happened. So I was like, head scratcher. I thought, I was sure these fish wouldn't be too difficult to catch. They were in nothing area. Anyway, that night we got a bit of a weather change. I think the wind kind of turned and it felt a much cooler. So I decided what I was going to do. I'd seen a lot less activity in the day building up to that night time when I was seeing loads. So I decided I'd get my head down early, sleep till about 8, and then wake up and stay up through the night and just see if I could hear them and see where they'd moved on to. Because I felt like if there was carp still there, they weren't all there. They'd definitely, a lot of them had done the off.
Right.
So that's what I did. I stayed up, and I'm like, where I'm set up in my brolly, my head's facing one end of the lake, and if you split it in half, my feet end was at one end and my head end was at the other. So
Hmm.
I heard this fish clatter out, and all I knew was, right, this is at my head end somewhere down that way, basically. And so I've jumped up out my pit. That were about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Jumped up, and then I've heard another one. And again, the wind's howling again at this point. So I'm thinking, right, so they're definitely in this side. And what I did, well, you'll have done it yourself, Don, where you hear one show, and then if it's not too windy or there's a bit of a lee in the wind behind an island, you can see the waves lap in, can't you? And you can
Hmm.
almost time how long they take to roll into your feet with edge torch to how
Yeah.
far they are, how far out they are.
Yeah.
Obviously, depending on the size of fish and stuff as well. So I'd watched these, waves lapping from one of these fish that showed, and I could kind of see what angle it was at and how long it took to come in, and I just kind of worked out. I felt there'd be somewhere between 30 and 60 yard and out to the left. And so that were it. The plan was made. The next morning, everything was packed up, and I moved out to my left, fishing out into this other end of the lake. There was a corner swim that's heavily flooded.
Right.
Um, so where I'd have to set up my shelter, I couldn't see any of the water out in front where I'd be fishing to. This swim probably had not been fished for God knows how long. It were all for me to get to where I needed to put my rods and stuff. It were literally just almost just touching the limits of my waders. Anyway, 3 or 4 spoms out there, maybe there's a few more, and I got set up at night. Anyway, middle at night, the waves are absolutely smashing in there. You know what it's like when alarms are bleeping, with
Yeah.
wind and stuff. And out of nowhere, it's just absolutely melted off. And it was one of them where you are sound asleep, and it just goes, from 0 to 60 in blink of an eye, and you're
instant.
just a bit like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? I'm trying to get waders on. Anyway, so the, the leading up to this, and I forgot to mention, I'd got some new waders, and the first day I used them when I was finding that little spot in the swim previous, out to right, I had to wade, and they leaked. So I knew that to fish this flooded area, what I had to do was every time I'd have to put my salopettes on and take my sock off my left leg to put my weight right. So every time I had to redo my rods, put bait out, or go look and see what were going on, or if I caught obviously not if I caught a fish because I wouldn't be quick enough. But so
Yeah.
this is a process that I went through, and it was freezing. So salopettes on, left sock off, waders on, and I just thought, oh my god, this better. Like, I don't really often think I deserve a bite here, but
No.
that was one of them occasions. And anyway, yeah, so plays this fish, and I'm sure I was still half asleep, and you kind of like scratch your head, don't you? And you look down, you've got a fishing net, and you think, what's happened there then? And yeah, I had a look, and it were a good common, mate, and it was, I think 35.8, something like that. It were a really, really nice one. Probably,
Lovely.
yeah, one of the nicest ones I've caught, Dom, like in terms of it. It's a big boxy, it looks solid, and I think a fish definitely that'll push on and probably be £40.
Mm.
Um, and after that, I think I spent a couple of nights. The wind continued to push in there, and I see them. They slowly backed off of me and moved onto the back at wind, and I was just sat there painstakingly just watching them slip their heads out on other anglers, and I couldn't really get near them.
Yeah.
Did a couple of nights in there, give it a hit before I left, just in the hope that a couple of days came up free, and it didn't. I had to wait till December, I think. Then my next trip, and yeah, you know what it's like. On my way down for the December trip, it were whited over. There was snow everywhere. I got there. I got there so yeah, I think the night before. That's it. The night before my little one had not been well, my missus had took him to hospital. I'd met him at hospital, got him home. He'd had a bit of like a fever,
Right.
so she'd said, "Look, just go. Only one parent can go in hospital with him anyway. If I need you, you just come back." So I'm like, right, okay. Anyway, I've set off much later in the morning than I'd like because I've been at hospital with him all night and stuff, picking her up and what have you. And I got down there, and it'd been snowing, and I thought, oh my god, this is dreadful. Like, and I just walked and walked, like I'd said earlier. And on this occasion, I think I had a 3 or 4 nighter in front of me. Didn't happen
Right.
trips.
Yeah.
And I spent all day looking in snow and sleet, and I never saw anything. And anyway, I went back to the car. I thought I'm gonna have to dry off, chill out a little bit, warm up, and then we'll go back to walking once it gets dark. Because this time of year, Dom, they love a show, don't they, after dark?
Yeah.
And I think I nodded off because I was so tired and worn out and stuff. I nodded off, woke up, and it were well into dark, and I was a bit like, yeah, I don't really know what's happened here, but I better get up and do some. So I'd had a look round, and again, hours and hours. If I'd have told people just how much time I spent looking on that trip, a lot of people would think I was, making it like it were.
Yeah.
It were a lot of looking, a lot of graft for very little. I think in
Mm.
the end, I saw something move the surface of the water in like, um, like a lamppost, and the light kind of just shines down onto the
Yeah.
lake in like a line. I
Yeah.
thought I seen surface water move there a little bit, and I noticed a grebe was working, and a grebe cormorant were working an area. One of them
Mm.
caught a massive roach. So I was thinking that is literally all I had to go on. Off at back at
Yeah.
wind, I thought this is going to be the one. I've seen there's definitely a lot of fish in this area, such as roach and stuff like that, and big old roach, they're not stupid, are they? They know where it's comfortable. So
Yeah.
yeah, few zigs out there. Nothing happened first night. Moved again. Nothing happened, and it was just flat. Never heard anything. Never saw anything. And like I said, I chipped off a couple of nights early. Met up with Lance for a bit of a social, and we drank a bottle of wine and had some food. And I think I finished my trip off catching a few bream in the early hours of that morning, and that was that. And that was my last trip.
Yeah.
So
How do you fish your zigs, mate?
um,
Do you use adjustables or?
no, I've never really messed about with adjustables, but I've never really needed to because they have such a massive place in angling, them adjustable zigs. But for me, I've never really fished anywhere deep enough where it's warranted me using them. If you know what I
Right.
mean, I
Yeah.
think for me, I've always been able to just get away with fishing fours, sixes, eights, and I can do that no problem off, just off a lead clip and
Mhm.
standard zig setup. And yeah, what about yourself, Tom?
Yeah, same. I've the water I'm on at the minute. That's why I asked. 'Cause I'm considering it.
Yeah,
I would normally just use the leg clip up to. I sort of use them up to probably 12 foot,
yeah,
13 foot.
yeah, same.
That was more on Christchurch, but um, yeah, I was just considering maybe trying adjustables over sort of the next month if it's just going to be days only.
Yeah,
Trying to find fish, seeing where they like, and just experimenting. I think because
I think
that
that's a really good idea, mate. Yeah, I do.
yeah, but it's obviously it's not really been fish. It's been cold. It's probably got a lid on it now because we're sort of -5s, -6s at night. But then I see next week it's gonna warm up. So what are we on now? What's the date now? Is it the 10th or 11th February?
11th, I
Something
think.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, 11th. So I think next week we're getting sort of double figures. I see. So maybe I'll give it a bash then. Go out for a day session and see what's what.
yeah, and I think definitely there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said for those adjustables. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people rate on about them and say they are really good. And like you say, I think fishing in deep water, if you've
yeah,
just like you said, get out and experiment. It's something that I definitely need to do. Because sooner or later you're going to come up against some carp that
yeah.
spend a lot of time in them upper layers, and you can't be putting them out off a lead clip. Like to be fair, lagoon. I think there's
Hmm.
areas in that lake that are down to 20 foot.
Right.
So it's not ideal to be pinging out 15 footers, is it? Really, I think I'd prefer
No,
there to be. So it's something. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely worth looking into, Dom. I would say.
yeah, it's yeah. I think it's just another sort of good arrow to have in your
Yeah,
phone. It's not really just being
yeah,
flexible. I imagine it's quite good fun as well if you're out sort of adjusting and
yeah.
tweaking and
It's active, isn't it? Then you're
yeah,
constantly active. I know.
it's,
I watched something on Alan Blair years ago, and he said he used to use him like I don't know how true it was, but as a bit of a lure, like a lure. So just
that's what I was going to say. It's almost
yeah,
the equivalent, isn't it? Of
yeah,
spinning, I suppose.
just twitching him
Yeah,
up and down a bit and trying to provoke a bit of
yeah,
interest. Definitely, there's something in it, mate. And I know some lads who have used them to good effect, and
yeah.
definitely something
'Cause
that
I mean, I'd imagine they are just sort of almost snatching them because they're in front of their face, aren't they? Sort of out being inquisitive.
yeah,
Or
definitely,
like a free easy meal that they haven't got to root around for or expend any energy.
yeah, and especially if like you can just imagine it now, can't you? If they are a little bit aware of what's going on around them, if all
Hmm.
of a sudden they're swimming at one depth and they're right in the face, and the next minute they come back, they're a little bit under, and then they're a little bit up. I suppose
Yeah,
it catches them out a bit, like thinking this thing's moving.
yeah,
I've just been seeing them at 2 foot, and now I'm back up at
yeah,
in 3 foot, and they're up here. So it must be a little bit like an hatch. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're dropping them down at night or whatever, and the fish are dropping down, and then the next day's bright, and they're back up there, and there's little bits of black foam splattered.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of an hatch, isn't it? And
Yeah, it's a real good shout. Definitely, I'm going to look into getting that set up and just working it, isn't it? Because I
yeah,
think you think in a day session with minimal kit, you could cover quite a bit of ground, couldn't you? With
yeah,
quite a bit of ground and quite a bit of depth. I think that's the most important thing.
yeah, for sure. And for the last few winters, and I say it all the time, I absolutely love fishing over bait. I think a lot of us
Mm.
do. I love,
Mm.
I love building something. I love, getting them liners in the night and stuff, and knowing like
Yeah,
sometimes you can set your clock, your watch bait, can't you? Like, oh, the back kind of thing. Liners will
yeah.
start and then the back. That's my favorite style of angling. But for the last few years, I said to myself every year, do you know, as soon as winter comes, all I'm going, and I've said this year in, year out, and I'm sure, and I've always said to myself, I'm adamant I'll catch more carp, and I've always caught a few in winter, and I've done
Mm.
okay, but I've always thought to myself that if I fish sigs from the moment it gets cold to the backside, or when we come into spring, when we know they start waking up, moving about, I'm
Yeah.
almost sure I'd meet or outdo previous winters, but
Hmm.
I can never bring myself to do it because I still love
Yeah.
fishing and setting little traps and trying to catch them on maggots and castor and
Yeah.
worm and it just boils down to what we enjoy, innit? And I do like
Yeah.
catching them on
And
zigs.
confidence, I think, as
Confidence,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said it to a few of my pals, if you just packed all your bait away and your buckets, and you
Yeah,
just stuck to that, that little bit, that fine line, and that little bit of black foam,
yeah,
I think you'd have a lot of success for a winter.
yeah, yeah. And you think how
So
light you could travel as well.
yeah, you'd save a lot of weight and stuff, wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah,
mm, maybe I'll try it one winter where I just refuse to take any bait and just
it'd
fish.
be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just to see how. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely. What so what I suppose we don't really know with the bloody virus, but what are your plans fishing wise? If say let's say we're allowed to go back out in March, which is what
So
they're hinting at, what
I've
do you
got.
think will happen?
So I'm hoping that we can start going out and doing a bit of night fishing. And I'm not an expert, but my personal belief is it shouldn't have been stopped anyway. I don't think.
Mm.
A lot of people. It certainly for me, it's my way of going away and decompress. Decompressing and taking time out and refreshing, ready to go back into a hard and difficult job kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I
What do
think
you do for a living, Jace? I haven't
so. I'm
asked.
a care practitioner in a children's home.
Right. I'd imagine it is quite demanding then.
It's extremely demanding. It's rewarding as well. So it has its, again, it has its ups and downs. But there's times where I just need to get myself away and just go out fishing, and sometimes a day's not enough. Like for me, yeah, it's nice to get out, but God, what would all give now to just get out a couple of nights and just
Yeah.
chill? You know what I mean? Barbecue on. That's what I
Oh,
love. You kind of forget about everything, don't you?
yeah.
That is what it's for. But yeah. So in terms of what I'm going to be doing, so if we can go back, I'm hoping. Well, this winter ticket on St Ives runs until I think the beginning of April.
Mhm.
I'm hoping to secure a full ticket on there, um,
Yeah.
and just try and make plans and target not necessarily a specific fish, but maybe a specific lake,
Mm.
um, and go from there, Dom. Yeah, that's the plan. And if we
Yeah.
get to go out in March, well, I ain't got an holiday booked in March. I've actually got one booked on the 21st of this month. So,
Right.
and I know Boris said he was going to come out and talk about it on the 22nd.
Okay.
So I'm praying it comes out and we're allowed to go out for night again. And if not, for that week, I might just get about and try and do a few days here and there, and maybe
Well, I think the light levels are going to be up, aren't they, as well by then?
yeah, so days will
They'll
be
start
longer, won't
creep.
they?
Yeah,
My
that'll be
plan,
the
bud.
one.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting on that, I suppose, isn't it? And seeing, but again, knowing what weather we're going to get, obviously, if it's going to be like it is now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I check the weather. Well, I think we're all the same. We're like weather experts now as carp anglers, aren't we? We're like, I've got Met Office, and then I've got a 2 week forecast, and I never believe in that 2 week forecast.
No.
But when I see my trip come onto that 2 week, when you see first
Mm.
day, so 16 days in, I think you can get 16-day weather forecast.
Yeah.
When my first day of my holiday drops onto that, then that's when I start to get excited, thinking, right, we're moving closer, and you can never trust it, but I still look anyway. Um,
Yeah. 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 Just give you an idea, isn't it?
yeah, but anyway, like I said, I was checking the weather this morning, and it says that like Monday, Tuesday is going to be pretty decent, 10 degrees,
Yeah.
a fresh southerly. But
That's it.
if
Yeah.
if everywhere's defrosted by then,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that like Sunday is like 6 in the day and 5 at night,
yeah,
so that
I,
should do it, shouldn't it? By the time Monday comes around.
I think Monday, Tuesday will be a shout for a lot. We've had this horrible weather, and a good 10 degree with a
Yeah.
new southerly could be the one, mate. I think people will catch on that.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's Yeah, that's what we need. Because looking at it, it looks like a bit of a sort of prolonged spell. Looking at it for that week, it's all sort of 8, 9, 10
Yeah,
in the day and sort of 5 at night, which is that's the one, isn't it? Getting those sort of consistent
yeah,
night
mate.
temperatures as well to just yeah, let that water temperature just creep up a little bit.
What's been interesting as well, and it's been an insight for me, is I've got a mate who's been fishing a lake again, one of these not too far, and he's been getting out in boat when no one's been about.
Mm,
And on flat calm days, it is tap clear this lake, and the stuff that he's been seeing and like noticeable things from the carp is just mad. Like we had ice on the lake, and the next day he's down into some like real shallow water, 2 and 3 foot. And this
mm,
lake has water like depths down to 20 foot. and
Right.
he's finding carp just like laid up in the middle of the shallows, just like in 2 foot of water with ice just not far away from him and stuff, and just like just all over the lake in different areas. So that there were like little groups that were 6 and 7 foot under surface, out in front of deep water. Then he's
Yeah.
finding them in 2 and 3 foot, just mad, just like a little handful of them just laid up there, just
Mm.
chilling. The other
Yeah.
corner of the lake, and this is like through all different weather systems. So I think a lot of fish do group, don't they? And they do start to get into a bit of a winter shoal kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think one thing's for sure, would never write off any part of the lake, knowing what I know from his boating trips and stuff.
Yeah.
That he is finding little groups of fish just enjoying their own little bit of the lake. You know what I mean? Rather than because you just assume, don't you? Everybody says, oh, they all get together, they huddle up, they get out in the middle of the lake, and that's that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
clearly,
They
from
think was it an age thing? They said, or it could be like a group, or like a season thing. Like fish at different ages tend to
yeah,
sort of
maybe,
hang around in
yeah, you could
similar
you could
pods.
imagine so, couldn't you? Like it might be the young active ones who are out there looking for food and
Yeah.
enjoying it in that shallower water, and you might get the
Yeah.
old seasoned carp that do like it. But yeah, like I think we all get into that frame of mind, don't we? And we all sort
Mm.
of think middle at lake, deep water, and it's just not the case. Like some of the things he's been telling me and what he's been seeing, and just through different weather systems. Like some carp is finding absolutely stacked up on end of a freezing cold wind, and then
Yeah.
it just drifts off to the back of it, and there they are. There's another little group happy as Larry on back of it. So literally, don't write anywhere off in winter because I think one of the days where they're all just sat in 30 foot, sat
Yeah.
on the bottom like people used to think. Like,
Yeah, I think there's still so much. I think that's the draw of it, isn't it, of angling in general. There's so much that we still don't know
yeah,
about it, about their behaviour and their movements. I think that's like a real big draw of it, isn't it? And the fascination to a lot of us.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, it's in the expectation, the fact that it could happen any time out of the blue.
yeah. That is definitely the big
That's
draw, mate. And
the
it's a
magic,
plus.
isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think when he told me that, and I kind of knew that kind of that, you hear it all the time, don't you? Like someone nicked one at that corner last week, and
That's it.
somebody caught. But I don't know. It opened up another side of it for me because then I'm like, wait a minute. So there were three over there, and it's -2, and there were two down in shallows, and I'm thinking, literally, it almost was like you don't actually have a clue what they are doing because everything that he told me is not necessarily what I'd have been expecting them to do. And and then I just thought, you know what, you literally have got a chance as long as you get down there and put rigs
Yeah.
somewhere. You've got a shout, like no matter what the weather is. And this were we ice and stuff knocking about, and there's just carp just chilling in shallow. It's like, yeah, it's a bit mad, isn't it? Like considering what people used to say about what carp did during winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, really
Yes.
interesting stuff.
Yeah, I love all that, definitely. And like you say, the catching them at different heights and everything. Yeah, zig fishing is definitely something I need to do more of. I fished a day session was last week, and I sort of started off fishing through on the bottom in the spot that I'd been baiting. I just thought, no, the weather weather changed
Yeah,
not long after I got the third rig out. I only got there sort of mid morning.
yeah,
Um, yeah, the weather just completely changed. It just felt ziggy. So I thought, right, moved on to the wind. It was sunny. It felt, although obviously the wind felt a bit cold, it just, the sun
yeah,
really changed that bank and just
yeah,
flicked
yeah,
three
yeah,
out on
yeah,
zigs. And I don't know if I said in the last podcast, I felt, as I felt the lead down because I was using braid, I felt it donk onto fish. I was like,
yeah,
oh, I'm
yeah,
on them.
yeah.
It
Mate,
was
that.
unmistakable because it's only sort of, I don't know, 10, 12 wraps out. It wasn't far out, but it was like dunk, dunk, dunk. It was
Yeah,
like
you feel
almost
it bounce
pinball.
down. Doo, doo, doo.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we're on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, didn't get anything, but yeah, just that it was just enough on a cold day just to get the old blood going.
yeah. Get the thinking cap as well. Like
Yeah,
that's all it takes as well, doesn't it? Like that sun to clear over trees. All of a sudden, you've gone from having three on deck to thinking, actually, I should be zig fishing here. And I think them carp spend a lot more time up in the layers than a lot of us would like to imagine. I think, every time, all through the year, I think they're spending large parts of the day
yeah,
well away from the bottom. And for me, especially so in winter, because, like I say, on every one of these different boat trips that my friends had, he's
Mm.
never found a carp sat on bottom or near to it.
Yeah.
You know,
And it,
yeah, obviously in shallows it's near to it because it's got to be because it's 3 foot. But is that a fish that predominantly would have been spending its time in the top 3 foot above 20 foot?
yeah, yeah,
You know, it's food for thought, isn't it? They're not spending much time down there.
yeah. No, and I wonder as well. See the effect that sort of the quality baits that are so readily available now at a reasonable cost.
Yeah,
How that plays out. Sort of taking it back to that feed up,
yeah,
or that feed up going a bit later on in the year. I wonder, sort of, having that good, high quality, nutritious bait, if that sort of changes things around as well.
yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Dom, like back in the day, they were probably having to eat more to get what they get out of a smaller amount of bait now because there is so many,
Yeah,
like you just said, Dom. There's so many good baits on the market now, and they're so nutritional for these carp. And at the end of the day, a mouthful 10 years ago might have taken them a quarter of a kilo to get the same nutrition from.
yeah,
And that is
yeah,
you know what? I've never even thought about that, mate. Obviously, I've thought about how good the baits and stuff are, but in terms of that feed up and stuff, maybe they've got all the fat reserves and stuff
yeah,
ready for cold, much sooner, so they don't get to like end of October or whatever and think, right, we're gonna have to smash it now and get some pounds on kind of thing for winter.
yeah. Well, you think about it, it's in a way, it's a bit of a daft analogy, but it's not. You think of like how sports, like as humans, like records get broken,
Yeah,
as diets and nutrition get more advanced. You think it's the same as carp. Carp have been around for a while, but they've not been as big as they've been now.
yeah, for
So
sure. Yeah, and they're growing
yeah,
all
so
the time, aren't they?
you'd expect, because the lakes are sort of the lakes, they're not really changing.
Oh,
So it could just be that, couldn't it? The fact that there is just physically
and I think as well,
more.
yeah, there's the bait's got better, hasn't it, for sure over
Mm,
the years, and it's more readily available at a better, at decent prices, and we've got more anglers coming into the sport,
yeah,
so
it's
more of
like a
it's
double
going in, I
whammy, isn't
guess. So
it?
it's
Yeah,
yeah, they should be happy really, these carp, shouldn't they? Only thing is they are
yeah,
getting probably hooked a little bit more, but
yeah,
they're getting a good dinner for it, aren't they? So it's all good.
yeah.
But yeah,
That
definitely.
amazes me how some fish evade a capture. I know sort of people have
Oh,
talked about it
and
multiple times, but even in small, you think like I saw Kempy's linear from Manor and Linear,
yeah,
how well that fish does
yeah.
evading capture when you think about how many lines are in the water, because it's not a big lake, is it?
No, I think we give them
Really?
credit, don't we, for being
Hmm.
they can be intelligent animals at time.
Yeah,
Um, but when you think of it like that, it does actually blow your mind because you think, how is it doing this? It's almost like it's growing hands and checking to see if rigs are all right or not before it eats because all it's got is its
yeah,
mouth, hasn't it, really, to test,
yeah.
and yet it still manages to you know, get away with it, kind of thing.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's. I reckon that there would be a whole podcast we could do on that.
Yeah, for sure,
What
mate.
they're getting up to when they're evading capture.
Yeah, that
Yeah, 'cause
again,
it just makes you wonder, doesn't it?
you could down some, rabbit warrens with that, wouldn't you? Like, because there's so many other so many reasons that could be happening. Like, are they good at?
Yeah,
Is it that they're good at getting away with a rig once they're hooked, or
yeah,
are they good at avoiding eating the bait that's got an hook attached to it? At the end of the day,
yeah,
they're the two options, aren't they? Really?
yeah. That's it. Yeah, or do they just eat naturals?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or are they
yeah,
aware when they're being fished for in terms of not necessarily a rig? Are they clocking people turning up into swims and saying, right, I know where them rigs are going and I'm avoiding that area
yeah,
now. I'm going to drift over into this zone.
yeah.
Like
You
you
think of the
say,
vibrations and everything as well.
yeah, yeah, and they're going to get used to that. Like somewhere like Linear, when
Yeah,
someone's wheeling, you know, wheelie bin
but
full of bait down, and they're going to know.
yeah, but then all that must almost be natural. You think, because it's so constant,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
noise that must be their natural environment. Because you think, especially the ones that get stocked in, that's all they ever really know,
yeah. I think
isn't it?
it's the norm for them for people to turn up, be loud, put leads out, do this, do that. But it's also
How much
attached to
take to?
danger, isn't it?
Mm,
So um, every time they hear that sound, they probably think, yeah, it's just another person turning up. But they probably know that what they're going to be doing is inevitably endangering them, isn't it? Like, and
Yeah.
mad, isn't it? Because they do look. You know what shocks me as well, Dom, is how quick some of these stockies learn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had some put into, a lake again. I'll refer back to a lake by me, and they went in, and odd ones being caught and stuff. But we're seeing like 8 pound growth rate since they've been put on, and hardly any of them have been caught. And I see them, and I'm a bit like, I was stalking. I were up a tree, and I were looking down one day, and I'm only fishing like probably 6 foot away from bank, and I've seen these new ones come in, and I've seen a couple of old ones having a little bit of a mooch, and I thought, and they've got away with it. And just up the shelf, like you could see, just the shelf up to my right, it were clear, it were warm. Little group of energetic stockies start coming, and they'd grown
Yeah.
a bit since they went in. I thought, oh God, here we go, this is it. One of these is getting up for sure. Turned up, this little group fed on the outer area, and
Mm.
bolt upright, fins up, fins out, looking all angry, drifted off. And I thought, they already know, like, these fish haven't even been caught. And it was just strange how it was one of them moments where you could tell they were hungry and they wanted it, but
Yeah.
they knew something weren't right. And I was up a tree, and my line lay and everything was pucker,
Mm.
and they knew, and
I,
they,
s- I suppose they're young. Again, it could be like another sort of weird analogy. It could be because they're younger, their
yeah,
senses are just more
yeah, that's
acute. They're sharper, aren't they?
very good point as well, Dom. Yeah, for sure. Because you see these, we see a lot of these older fish, don't you now? That
Mm.
as they near towards let's say end of the life, it might not necessarily
Yeah.
be that close, but they seem to trip up. Maybe it's like you'll notice like fish that are real, you know, wary. They might go
Mm.
through a spell where they get up 2 or 3 times and caught in quick succession, and then
Yeah.
they get found either dead or not in good
Mm.
shape. And again, like you said, that could be an age thing because we all start to forget, don't we, Dom? Like as we get on a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe
The
it's that.
eyesight goes, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 for sure. Or like you said
Yeah.
earlier, just knowing like that. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of it to think about, and I think that's why many a night sat around a barbecue, and why we love doing it so much is because you get talking about something like this, and
Yeah.
before you know it, it's early hours in the morning because you can
And
just
yeah,
like
'cause
sit,
everyone's got a different
yeah,
twist on it as well, haven't they? That's the beauty of it.
and everybody sat there at some point by themselves thinking
Yeah.
about the situations and has come up with something completely opposite to what you might have thought. Like you've said a couple
Mhm.
of things there, and I've thought, actually, yeah, I've not really thought too much into that.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it, mate? We don't actually know, do
Definitely.
we? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely good.
I'll edit those bits out in case they're too interesting for our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Because when we decided we were going to do this podcast, it were based on getting was it a boring? What was it?
Just try and get people to sleep, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
think
that's it. Yeah,
as you need to nod off.
we'd be
So we're
brilliant
about.
at that.
It's a shame it's not a live one, though, because what's the time? Yes, 10 o'clock in the evening
Yeah.
on a Thursday evening. Everyone should be sat down with an Ovaltine.
Yeah. With some lavender spray on the pillow, they'll be happy as Larry, won't they now?
Funnily
They've,
enough, it's lavender coloured. The old waves and the recording on it. I don't know why
is
they've
it?
chosen
See,
that.
but ideal, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's made to be. Maybe it's just for really boring episodes. Like someone else has got on this red or green or something vibrant. It's just like a nice,
I'm
soothing,
I'm kind of
dull.
hoping that these people who have been falling to sleep previously, have sat up and thought, yeah, his boring northern accent just provoked, a bit of interest maybe, but I doubt it. Like,
It's all good. Everyone's got an opinion, mate. I quite enjoy reading some of the funny reviews. It's
yeah, they are class, aren't they?
yeah,
That one you spoke about the other day was brilliant, mate. It's having
with
the
the
time to put the reviews and have that kind of humour as well, mate. I think
yeah,
we need to get. I
yeah,
think you need to look at getting them on.
yeah, definitely. If we're after getting to come forward, I think it was JMA 1 or O1 or
Yeah.
something, whoever that is.
Can you imagine if you just got them all to admit who they were, your bad
Yeah,
reviews, and just got them on a mad podcast and just
yeah.
got them all to tell us
That's
about
the thing, isn't
themselves?
it? That's great. But would you like openly say that to someone? That's how I think about it. Would you say that to someone's face?
I
That,
wouldn't. I wouldn't be that rude. No, I'd maybe just go away and think, oh God, that were boring.
yeah,
But You know, I
I'd,
want,
I'd probably say it after a few beers now, me.
yeah, yeah, a couple, yeah. Well, obviously, I think we're all like a
Everybody's
couple of beers
entitled
in.
to my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. You always are after a few Stellas, like.
Yeah. Hi,
But
mate.
no,
Right. As I say, we're 5 past 10. I reckon if we wrap up there, we've gone over the hour mark as well. So that's been a mega episode, and I think it's spawned plenty of topics to maybe talk on a few future ones. We'll get one recorded on the bank in the future, mate.
yeah, that's brilliant, Dom. It's been really good chatting to you, mate. Hopefully, the next time we do this, we'll all be allowed to go out and do what we love the most and do some nights, and hopefully we'll have some more captures to talk about then, bud.
Yeah, that'd be good. Right, mate. Right,
Perfect,
take
bud.
care and stay safe.
Yeah, you too, Dom. Take it easy, mate.